Everything negative, anything that's stressing you out, any to-do list that you have in your head, it's just like, it disappears. And that's the same type of feeling that I get when I'm roller skating. So it is a form of meditation for me.
Hello everyone, I'm Michael Corrigan and this is the Journey Continues podcast, where we speak to interesting individuals about how they've navigated the challenges in their lives. Our mission is not to provide advice, but it is 100% to provide insight into what they were thinking and feeling through these challenging times, so you can best cherry pick the information that resonates with you the most. Today's guest is Elly Pham from Toronto. Elly is a digital marketer and front-end developer currently working for Shopify and previously Glossier. Elly has faced challenges in the pandemic, as we all have, but she's overcome them with a unique blend of creativity and logic, which will become apparent throughout this conversation. She's also the founder of the not-for-profit 100 Smiles project, who work with orphanages in South America. And this all started with a simple donation of toys en route to a wedding, and now provides dental care and teaches computer science. So Elly, welcome. Thank you for being on the podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much for reaching out to me and having me. I am thankful to be able to chat with you again.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. So let's kick things off. I feel like when we speak to people about the beginning of the pandemic, everyone has a moment where the penny drops and we realize this is happening and it's a big thing. And I feel like everyone's memory is quite vivid of that. How did it all start for you?
Yeah, so for me, I guess that it was around beginning of March, when the pandemic slowly started happening. You started hearing more about it on the news. And then, at that time, around end of March, we were planning a trip for Tulum. So I'm just like keeping track of numbers, being like, okay, are we still going to be able to take this trip? Is it safe? All right, the numbers are still low. But then when I just kept seeing the numbers go up, and, it was like surpassing the SARS numbers, and a lockdown was going to be announced. And you started seeing people and hearing about people on the news, like panic shopping. You go grocery shopping and like toilet paper is out, flour is out. I think that was when it hit for me. It was just like, oh no, this is actually happening. The numbers are just going to continue to go up, and we're going to be in this lockdown, and changes are happening. There's no going back to normal for a while. It's like looking forward to normal. So I would say in March was when that penny dropped, and I just kind of starting to see a shift in everyone's behavior, and even my husband's behavior, and just kind of starting to worry, about our family and food situation and stuff like that. But yeah.
So you had some amazing news. You became a mum for the first time about 5 or 6 months before the pandemic. How's it been being a new mother since it all started?
Yeah, well, when you become a new mom, there's so many new experiences that you're going through with your partner, and you're figuring things out. And, I have my family that'll help me out from time to time. And I have my friends who have kids that I'll message, and they'll provide advice and stuff like that. But at that time I was I had joined a moms group, and I started meeting other moms, and meeting this great community of moms to share tips and stuff with and you'd hang out with each other, and all your kids are around similar ages, and you're looking forward to the future where your kids can continue playing together, go to school together and stuff like that. Those mommy groups were happening once a week, and then once the pandemic happened, we couldn't have those meetups anymore. And we have a group chat that we would keep in touch on, but it's kind of hard because all moms, a lot of the moms in my group were second time moms, and they were really busy with 2 kids, and even just being busy with 1 kid, it's just kind of hard to keep up with like messaging and stuff like that. So I found that group pretty quiet. So I was really lacking that support group and sense of community.
Cool. And then how has life been then through the pandemic, and I guess managing your time and managing the new situation?
Yeah, well, I think my parents always say this to me when I FaceTime them, like when we were at the beginning of the pandemic, they're like, oh, you're so lucky that you have Jaden during the pandemic. Like all you get to do is just like spend time with him. And I'm very grateful for that time spent with him. I mean, even like before the pandemic, I would have still been spending a lot of time with him, but because you couldn't go anywhere, you couldn't see anyone, you couldn't visit anyone. It was just like, okay, it's just time to be home and be present with your kid, and that's all that you can do. So, I'm very grateful for the time that I have with Jaden during the pandemic while I was on mat leave. But at the same time, I feel like it was just really lonely. Being at home with my husband, it's great, and having him around to like help take care of Jaden is great, but you get lonely not being able to go meet up and have a drink with your friends and go to fitness classes, because that was also another great community that I was a part of, that where I don't get to hang out with my friends there anymore.
Yeah. I feel like we're all missing the social touch points we're so used to having. So, I miss going to the pub or the bar because I miss the atmosphere, I miss the music, I miss the conversations, being in a coffee shop and hearing that chatter. It's quite nice.
Oh,
And I can't
yeah.
wait for that to come back.
Hearing that coffee machine go off in the background while you're working from your computer.
So like, obviously you picked up, and this is what I love, like you picked up something new and you started to do something completely new. So can you tell us a bit more about what that is? Because I don't want to drop any spoilers just now. I guess
Yes.
how that started.
Yes. So, during the pandemic, when you're at home with your X-month-old, you're either spending time with him, or then while he's napping, you just kind of like want to zone out and go on social media. So for me, I would go on Instagram, and I slowly started discovering roller skating. Like I slowly started seeing it pop up on my feed, and seeing beautiful men and women just jam skating. So jam skating is a style of skating where you're just like dancing on roller skates and doing all these elegant and fun moves. And I was like, oh, this is like so neat. And I would like start liking them. And how Instagram and Facebook's algorithm works, they slowly start popping up on your feed. And I'm like, this would be pretty fun to try, because during that time it was like spring, like around spring, summer, when I started to discover it. And I'm like, you know what, maybe I should look into getting a pair of skates. Like maybe this is something that would be fun for me to try out, and a part of me was kind of holding back, because I was like, oh, well, what if I don't like it? Then I'm just going to have a pair of skates just collecting dust. And then I'm like, well, what if I will like it? So I went online, found myself a pair of skates. It's really hard. At the time, it was really hard to find a pair of skates, because during that time, I think a lot of men and women were getting into roller skating. Like it was like
That's
this
cool.
trend that was happening. So I ended up finding myself a pair of decent quality skates and picked them up, and took them. Where did I first start skating? I just took it to like an empty basketball court near my house while Jaden was sleeping, and my husband Mason would stay at home and look after Jaden, and went for a skate. And that was when it happened. I fell in love with roller skating, and yeah, I thought I would be this jam skater, but it turns out after a few times roller skating, I started discovering people who were park skating. So park skating is a different form of skating. It's like a little bit more of like the extreme sport category, where you would roller skate in half pipes and bowls, and you go to the skate parks and you go off jumps and stuff like that. So I think that extreme, because I'm a pretty extreme adventurous person, so I think that extreme side of me was like, oh, you know what? No, jam skating is not for me. You know what? I'm going to try that. There's a skate park near my house, so I'm going to try it out. And I jumped it. I crawled into the bowl because I didn't know how to drop in, is what you call it. And I started just flopping around, rolling around like a fish, not knowing what I was doing, but I loved it. I fell in love with it.
What was it like the first time you turned up at the skate park? Because, I remember when I went snowboarding for the first time, I'd bought all this equipment, and, when you're new to something, you're not really sure if you're buying the right stuff. So you're kind of going on someone's word if that's the right snowboard or the right jacket, the right helmet. And yeah, obviously you're brand new at it. So what was that like?
Yeah, well, for me, it was, oh my gosh, I don't think I'd ever been to a skate park before. I mean, I skateboarded when I was 16, when I was younger. But I was just like, I never ended up at the skate park. So I didn't know what that feeling was. But so my first time at the skate park was when I started roller skating. And for me, I was really intimidated just driving there. I was like, oh no, are there going to be skateboarders there? Like, are they going to be like, oh, what is this roller skater here doing? Like, I was worried about being judged, being judged for being a roller skater, being judged for being a female in a male space. Like, not saying that the parks are male space, but like a lot of the times there's more, I find there's more male skateboarders at the skate park than females. And it was really nerve-wracking. And I was like, you know what, just push through these feelings. Like, you made it here. Like, let's just put on your roller skates. I think I had, you had mentioned gear. I had purchased the bare minimum. It's like wrist guards and knee pads, because when I had purchased my roller skates, I was like, going to be jam skating. I didn't think I'd find myself at the park. And then I had brought my husband's bike helmet with me, just to stay on the safe side. And I'm standing there at the top of the bowl, and there was this man who was skating. He was just dropping in, skating around in the bowl. And I was like, okay, I'm like, you just drop in. And I was like, okay, maybe I can just drop in. I'm like looking down. I'm like, no, there's no way I can do it. I think it was like a 7-foot drop in. And and I'm like, no, I can't do it. And then I was like, well, how am I going to get in? And then, well, how am I going to get out? And I'm like, you know what? Just get in. You'll figure it out. I told myself. And I crawled in and skated around in the pool, figured out how to go back and forth. I was like, I look like an idiot right now, but this is so much fun. And I think as soon as I got in the bowl and started skating around, I think that's when all my fears of judgment like disappeared, because those feelings, that joy and fun, like accomplishing like this challenge, it just surpassed those negative feelings that I was feeling.
Yeah, I love that for so many reasons. Like, you overcame the fear of becoming a beginner again. And I think that's something that probably gets harder and harder as life goes on. So I think that's something that I love, and I love that story for that reason. And then, just even the understanding like because anytime you do something new, you almost subconsciously look for what the etiquette is of the new situation. So it's like, in a snowboarding sense, it's like, how do I get onto the ski lift? When is it my turn and stuff like that?
Yeah.
So you've got all this kind of stuff to figure out.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I did have to figure that out, because when I started going to the skate park, you know, I was a mom on mat leave who had some extra time on our hands when her son was sleeping. So I would go during the day when people were working, or I would go early morning, because during that time when I started, it was summer. So there were also some kids there skateboarding or on their scooters. But most of the time when I went, it was empty. But during the times when I went, when it started getting busy, you know, I think it's like common sense to like wait your turn. You know, like you kind of, it just kind of comes to you, like, you know, when you see a lineup, you wait in the back of the line, you know, stand in the front of the line. And it's like the same common sense at the skate park. You know, if you're with, you know, if there's 10 people there, it's just like, okay, who went? Okay, if I just came in, okay, I'm going to be like the 10th person. And I'm, you know, you just kind of like keep track of that. But sometimes, you know, there would be people, you know, there'd be more chattier people. And then so when it's their turn, and, you know, for me, I was always like, any time that I got to skate, it was like, you know, I'm on a time limit, you know, I only got like 45 minutes to skate. So it's like, are you go? So it's like, it's your turn now. Like, are you gonna go? Can I go? Like, you know, and when you're caught up in that situation, you know, that's when you just ask like, hey, it's your turn. You go, and they'll be like, no, it's okay, you can go. So yeah, so over time, you just kind of learn, you know, it's common sense, but over time, you'll learn etiquette. Or like when someone, you know, nails down a trick, you know, people like stomp their feet, or, you know, you hear skateboarders like slap their skateboard and stuff like that. It's just to like cheer people on, and you're like, oh yeah, you know.
And what things have you learned from starting to skate? And I guess is there anything that you would, if you went back and started to skate again, what would you do differently? What have you learned?
For park skating is to have the right equipment. You know, I had pretty good quality skates to start with. I think they were actually made for my skates. The first skates that I purchased were actually made for park skating. But for me, like I had, you know, thinner knee pads and wrist guards, and my wrist guards weren't great because after my second time falling, it broke, and I didn't have elbow pads with me. I didn't buy elbow pads. So when I was falling, I kept hurting my elbows. So every time I did a fitness class where I had to use my elbows, I was like, oh my gosh, my elbows hurt so much, you know? So it's just like, okay, like I would go and get better equipment. I didn't have the right helmet because I was using my husband's helmet. So get a better quality helmet. As for the skates though, I feel like, you know, I did well there because I spent the extra money on a good quality pair of skates that I would still choose to skate in now.
Cool. And, you know, would you say that this has become your daily version of meditation in a sense?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Yes. You know, for me, I think I you know, I exercise at least 6 times a week. And for me, that's like my meditation. That's my time. That's mommy time. And that's like time, you know, that's time for me to like build up those like good endorphins and start my day off well. And then when I had discovered roller skating, I'm just like, it was, I think I mentioned this to you before, but it's like, you know, whenever I would learn a new trick and I would focus on nailing that trick, it's all I can think about in the moment. And I compare that to golfing. Like I used to go and hit golf balls with my dad and with my friends. And like, you know, I was just like, why do people like love golfing so much? And then like, you know, every time I went to the range, I'm like, okay, you know what? I get it. It's like when you're at the range or you're, you know, playing those 18 rounds of golf, like the only thing you can think about is hitting that ball straight, hitting it as far as you can, closest to the hole. That's the only, everything negative, anything that's stressing you out, any to-do list that you have in your head, it's just like, poof, it disappears. And that's the same type of feeling that I get when I'm roller skating. So it is a form of meditation for me because, like, you know, I've done yoga class before, and like, you know, when you're in a pose, I don't know if you do yoga, but when I'm in a pose, I'm like, and I start to think about like, oh, Sheila, it's like, oh, did I get the milk? Did I get the egg? You know, but like that, you know, I that doesn't happen to me when I'm roller skating or when I'm trying to hit a golf ball.
That's awesome. I was reading today, I think it was, about these subcultures that are bubbling up, and one is roller skating in North America, and then I think there was one about running and people who've taken up running, including myself, in the pandemic, just as a way to get out, get outside, get some fresh air, and just have, you know, something to take their minds off things, and also just have something to focus on for half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour. And I think that's so important to have that, to have something that you can focus on, that's not work related or home related.
Yeah.
And just to detach from things.
Yeah, it's a nice, you know, it's a nice like escape from reality, you know, even though like, you know, my reality is good. I'm very grateful for my health and a job and for my lovely family. But, you know, sometimes reality is really, really hectic. You just want to escape that for a bit, even if it means, you know, enduring in like 5 kilometers of running pain. Like for you, you said you had picked up running during the pandemic. Is that like, do you find that like as some sort of like an escape for you as well, or?
Definitely. I think that it's funny because I would never have ran before the pandemic. I would never have done it. I would have went to the gym. I would have done high intensity interval training. I would have done sprints, but I would never have jogged for half an hour, 45 minutes. And I just didn't enjoy it at all. And it got to the point where I just felt like I had to get outside. Like Scotland, Scotland in the winter can be cold, dark, can rain a lot. And actually you just need to get outside and get some fresh air every day. And for me, it was, okay, I'll get out and I'll run 1.5 kilometers. And then the next day I'll try and run 2 kilometers. And then the next week I'll try and run 3 kilometers. And now I'm running like 7, 8, 9 kilometers. And, you know, after you're doing it for a long time or a while, you start to identify your own pace of running. So I don't run for a personal best time. Like I don't try to beat my time all the time.
Yeah.
Although I look at it and see, okay, am I naturally improving? But you do it and you find a pace for how it feels okay for you to run. And you kind of, once you get into that pace, your mind can start to drift away and you can start to think about other things. And yeah, your mind kind of wanders a little bit, but in a nice, peaceful way. It's hard to explain.
No, I get it.
Yeah. So for me, that's like, you know, I run probably 2 or 3 times a week now. And I just think that it's something I want to continue doing, but it's definitely my form of escapism, getting out of the house and doing something and getting some exercise and getting some fresh air.
And then would you consider that to be like a new challenge for you? And like, how would you continue to keep it challenging for you?
I don't know if it needs to be challenging. I think it's just the act of getting outside, putting some music on or a podcast on and running and just getting away from the desk and getting away from the work and getting away from the emails and being outside and being able to, you know, be free, you know, for that period of time, you know. But, you know, I'm the kind of guy that I definitely have a bucket list. And I always said that I would love to run a marathon, not for the love of running a marathon, but just for the sake of saying that I have run the marathon. And I was never going to get there. I was never on the path to running a marathon. But now I feel like, you know what, I could be on the path, right?
Totally.
Maybe in a couple of years it's something I'll do. But I'll definitely start with like a 10K and build up from there. But I feel like I could do that now. And it's not from trying to do that, but it's just from a desire to get out, run, take my mind off things. And then it's naturally built up to that. So it's quite nice.
Yeah, like roller skating for me, it's like you said, like, running was your excuse to like get outside, do something different, get away from the desk. And for me, that was roller skating. Um, and like, I do my exercise indoors. Like I do my like high interval training indoors in my basement, weight training. And it was just like, okay, like roller skating, it's different because it's like allows me to like go outside, enjoy the outdoors, enjoy the beautiful weather when it was like spring and summer, fall. Now I can't really do that so much because it's really cold here and it's winter and there's the skate parks are just filled with snow now. But I
So how have you
understand that.
managed that though? Because obviously it gets quite cold in Toronto. Having been to Canada, I know how cold it gets.
Yeah.
Amazing place. I want to go back. It's one of the first places I'll go after I can travel again post-COVID.
Great.
But like, what have you done to, keep that going through winter?
Yeah. So, you know, when there wasn't snow on the ground, when you like you kind of like look outside and you're like, okay, like the snow's been on the ground, but there has been like fresh snow, so like maybe there might be some dry spots at this skate park. So then I'll like jump in my car and drive over there and see, and like I'll have like a little patch to go skate. But like when I'm not able to, I would skate in the basement. That's the only area my husband will allow me to skate. um, and I'll just and that's when I was like, okay, maybe this is my opportunity to try jam skating, So I've learned some new moves, some new jam skating moves, and I've learned those moves off of Instagram. So there's some great tutorials on there that I've been following. But lately, I haven't really been into indoor skating so much, just because I think now that I'm back at work, balancing that like work-life balance with Jaden, it's just been a little bit more difficult, finding time to cook and then exercise and then put Jaden to bed and then eat. So I find that at the end of the night where I used to find that time to skate in the basement, I can't find that energy to do it anymore. But I was like, okay, I want to continue that momentum. So, I saw some roller skaters who have like picked up ice skating, and I was like, okay, you know what? I like ice skated when I was younger. Like this would force me to get outside, get outside in a different way. Like, it's cold, I'll just bundle up, go book some ice time at the ice rink and go skate. So I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to do this for myself, for mental health. I think this will be good for me. And I bought myself a pair of roller skates, because the roller skates that I skate in, Moxie roller skates, they make an ice skate. And I was like, oh, these look really pretty. I'm gonna get these. I'll treat myself. And so I picked those up. And what's great about ice skating is that my friends who are not roller skaters, not my roller skating friends, but my actual friends, like a lot more of them are like, yeah, like we'll go skating, because a lot of them already have ice skates, so they're more willing to like come out and skate. And that's something that you can do. Like you can hang out with your friends outside with a mask and go ice skating together. So that's like a way to go and hang out with your friends. So I've gone ice skating so far maybe 6 times already.
Cool.
A few times by myself and a few times I've gone with a friend, and it's been a lot of fun, and it's not the same as roller skating at all. It's completely different. Like you're not on 4 wheels, you're on a blade, and it's super slippery, and you're on ice. And so it's a different challenge, and it's a challenge that I really enjoy and I want to continue getting better at.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you've learned something else to adapt to all of this.
Yes. Yes.
Tell me about I'm curious to know a little bit more about the online community for roller skating. What's that like?
Yeah. So when I had started roller skating, when I think it was like my second time at the park, at the skate park, and it would just like be me, scooter kid or skateboarder, and and I always wondered like, oh, I wonder if I'll ever see like other roller skaters here, like and I remember I started following a few roller skaters from Toronto, and then I saw this one woman who looked really familiar from Instagram, and I'm like, hey, are you Nitro Skates? My husband was with me. I'm like, hey, are you Nitro Skates on Instagram? She's like, yeah. I'm like, oh, I'm Elly. It's like, my husband thought it was hilarious because he's like,
That's so
you really
funny.
just do that? I'm like, well, yeah, I need to make some friends. And like, she was my first roller skating friend, and we go out skating all the time, and we message each other on Instagram, and like, she was my first friend, and over time I met more roller skaters, and they're really friendly group of people, and they're people that you start following each other online. Like, you see someone from Toronto, and you're like, oh, cool, maybe I'll run into them at the park or something like that, and eventually you do, and you become friends with them. So this relationship that forms in an online community, it builds over time in person, which I find so great. So it's sad that I don't get to see my gym friends and my mom groups and my friends often, but I was able to be a part of another community, and I was really happy about that. So.
Yeah, no, that's so cool. That's awesome. I love that. We touched on it a little bit earlier in the conversation. How have you balanced, like, you've taken up something completely new, which is amazing. And how have you balanced this new thing, roller skating or a little bit of ice skating? How have you balanced that with, family life, being a new mum, and also your job as well?
Yeah, so when I had started skating, it was a little bit easier because I was on mat leave. So I had a little bit more time, and, my husband would work around, he would, take time off work just to look after Jaden so I can have my time. But then now I'm very limited on time because I'm working. So, I think it's all about how you schedule your time. So when the weather was still nice, and I had gone back to work in September, so the weather was still nice, and I was like, oh my gosh, now that I'm going back to work, like, when am I going to have this? Where am I going to find the time to skate? So what I did was early mornings, I would go out. My husband would take over Jaden for an hour until childcare would come, and I would go out for a skate, and then I'd rush back home, shower, get online. Or if I wasn't able to do that, I would sneak out for an hour at lunch, because the skate park is like 10 minutes away. So I'm like, if I can get a good half an hour in, it's usually not that busy. It's not usually not busy then anyways. So I'd have like the skate park to myself for half an hour. So I'd just do whatever, and then rush back home and jump back online. Another thing I did was, so when the indoor skate parks were still open before the lockdown, I would go when Jaden, so after he went to bed, I would tell my husband, I'm like, you know what? I'm headed out to the skate park. Peace out. And it's like, and it was fine for him because Jaden's already asleep. So like, I don't have that guilt that like, oh, he's looking after Jaden while I'm having fun, but he's asleep. Just need a body here to look after him, and I can go out and have my me time. So it's just like finding that time to schedule in. Like, if it's really important to you, like, you make it a part of your lifestyle. How they say like exercise isn't a temporary solution. Exercise is part of your lifestyle. Like, that's how it should be. So that's how I was looking at skating. Like, exercise is part of my lifestyle. Like, now that I'm really enjoying roller skating, like, I want to make roller skating part of my lifestyle. So how do I make it fit in every day for the rest of my life, hopefully? But yeah, and that's how I do it. And I think planning and scheduling is really important. And if you have a little one or a few little ones to look after, and you have a partner at home, like that's like communication. Communication is also key there as well.
Yeah, that's awesome. One of the things that I think is definitely a theme right now is also being a bit kinder to ourselves as well. So just, not putting as much pressure on ourselves that we might have done previously. So, and therefore being a bit more flexible, and that flexibility, being able to do some new things and more stuff. Would you agree with that?
Yes, I definitely agree. I mean, I was feeling a little bit guilty. Like when I would want to go out and have a skate, this was before I was back at work, and, and I leave Jaden at home with my husband. I started having this mom guilt, like, oh, is this, a lot of the moms that I've met when I became a mom, like when I was part of that mom group, I've heard a lot of the moms being like, oh no, there's no way I can leave my son or my daughter, I have to be with them all the time. But I didn't have that feeling. Like, I love Jaden and I love spending time with him, but I didn't have that, like, I need to be with him. And so when I was at the skate park, there was sometimes thoughts would come up in my head where it's like, I had felt like, oh, this is guilty mom just because I wasn't with Jaden. Like, I was comparing myself to other moms.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? Like, no, like, stop doing this. Like, you would be doing yourself a disservice if you weren't doing this for yourself. This is a good thing that I'm doing for me. I'm taking time out for me. And and I think that's important because I don't want to be angry or have any like resentment, So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's so important. I think that, I think we were all good at it beforehand, I think, but I think what this whole experience has done for me is refined to me what's important to me. So it's refined to me what I actually need, and what anyone needs is individual to them. So, and there's nuances in that. So yeah, no, I completely agree. It's about a bit of analyzing of the self, and then being okay with that if it's not exactly what someone else thinks is right, but is maybe, there's an overlap, it's maybe just a little bit different.
Yeah.
So that's okay, because that works for me and it works for the people in my life, and we're all happy, and therefore we're all happy. Yeah. So
Yeah. And it's like, I'm filling up my battery, if my
filling up your
battery,
cup.
I'm filling up my cup, like, my happiness cup, my energy cup, my endorphin cup. Like, I'm filling up my cup with all these things that'll make me a better, that'll make me like perform better, like I won't be able to be there for Jaden 100% mentally, physically, if my cup's not filled up. It's like the whole, the airplane mask thing, like put your mask on first before you put it on someone else's. So it's, the same thing.
Yeah, completely agree. One thing I want to touch on before we finish is the 100 Smiles project. So when you told me this, I was amazed. I was in awe. Can you tell me how that started, and talk us quickly through the evolution of it?
Yeah, so 100 Smiles Project is a non-for-profit organization that helps orphanages in need, provides love to them through like dental campaigns, donating toys, volunteer work, and surf camps. So that's what 100 Smiles Project is, and I'll tell you the evolution of how it all started. So it started about, oh my gosh, it's been maybe 9 years ago. So it started with my first, one of many trips that I've been on, but this one trip that I was going on, and it was to Trinidad, and it was a really quick trip to Trinidad because it was over like a Christmas break. So I had to like be back at a certain time. So I only had 5 days. So I was like, oh, 5 days, for a wedding. I'm like, that's great. I'm going for this wedding. I'm like, oh, but I feel like maybe there's like, something extra that I can do. Like while I'm there, like what can I do? And like this idea popped up in my head where I was just like, oh, maybe I should just, it'd be great if I like raised toys and brought them with me in like a bag that I can check in and donate them to an orphanage in Trinidad. So I did some research and I found an orphanage in Trinidad. And instead of checking a bag for myself, I just threw all my stuff in a carry-on bag. I ended up so the goal was to raise 100 toys, and I called it the 100 Smiles Project. And I ended up raising 100 toys to fill up my bag that I wanted to check in, brought it with me. And unfortunately, I didn't get to go to the orphanage. I didn't have time for that, but someone had dropped off the bag for me at the orphanage. And it was about a month later when I was back at home, I received a letter from the orphanage, it was St. Mary's Orphanage, and they said, hi, Elly, thank you so much. We received all the toys that were donated from your friends. All the kids really appreciated it. Thank you so much. And I was like, oh, wow, this is awesome. Great. Like, this action brought joy to these kids. And then so on the next trip that I went to, which was Costa Rica, I decided to do it again. I raised, called the campaign 100 Smiles Project, raised toys and donated them to the community. So I was in Costa Rica at the time for a surf camp. And then after Costa Rica, I went to El Salvador, and I had found an orphanage there called Ramar. And I actually got to see the kids at the orphanage and donate the toys myself. And, I felt something there in El Salvador, like with the kids, like just being able to like interact with them and see their smiles and see the joys on their face with them receiving these toys. And I'm like, wow, like, the surf brought me there, and the surf brought me back, and the kids brought me back. So I kept going back to El Salvador. So, every time I had gone back, I was thinking of like other ways of how I can help them. So there was one year where I raised money to help build a school in a really small community. And then we were like kind of like helped out with the building as well. I started bringing volunteers with me. So I started organizing volunteer trips. So 100 Smiles Project, it's like all the money that's raised goes to the project. So none of it goes to me, like none of it goes to my travel expenses. And any volunteer that wants to join, they'll pay for all of their expenses, and then they'll like raise extra money themselves to like donate towards whatever campaigns that they want. So other campaigns that we've started doing, it was a mobile dental campaign. So I worked with dentists in El Salvador, and I had two dentists come with me on 2 trips to come and donate their time and do dental work on the kids and the community. We've sponsored surf camps. So we've taken the kids at the orphanage. Like they live like 5 minutes away from the beach, and they don't get to go out to the beach. So it was nice to be able to take them out, give them surf lessons, and like to see them have so much fun and spend time with other volunteers. So it's just like a chance for them to like build these relationships with these volunteers and have fun and like get the love that they need. It's like they don't get that much of that at the orphanage. Like, they look after themselves there, but I can't imagine, like Jaden, like not having me around, like, when he hurts himself, or like, when he wants me to open something, like the first person he goes to is like, he like looks for me, or he looks for his dad. Like I can imagine someone so young, like not having anyone like that. So even if it's just over a 1 week period, usually our trips are a 1 week period, like even if it's just that 1 week period where these children have that attention from these volunteers and they get to do all this like fun stuff, then why not? And the latest thing that we've done, so the last time I was in El Salvador was 2 years ago, and that was when we did the dental campaign. But I was like, I always try to like make things better. Like, let's not just donate the toys. Let's like do something that will make an impact, like for the kids, you know? So like went from toys to experiences, sponsoring pizza lunches, like dental campaigns, like helping out with, so Ramar is they're not, they don't get any support from the government. So they get, you know, a lot of donations and stuff like that. And a lot of the times they're struggling to pay their bills. So like we'll raise money to cover those kind of costs too. Yeah, 100 Smiles project has brought me a lot of joy over the past 8 years. And I think I think that it's brought the kids there a lot of joy as well as the volunteers that I've brought with me, and my husband as well. And you know, we were supposed to go to El Salvador to run a dental campaign and a computer camp in April, but you know, because of COVID, we had to cancel that trip. So that was really unfortunate. But excuse me, in April they had a really bad storm in Altunco, Sinsal, and the community was really affected, and there was like a lot of floods and a lot of homes were ruined. So that one of the dentists there reached out to me and he told me about the situation, and he's like, hey, would you want to donate some funds to like put together like these like care bags with like rice and beans and stuff like that to give to the community? And we're like, yeah, of course. So like, even though we weren't able to go there, we still help out as much as we can. I still stay in contact with the director of the orphanage, just to be like, hey, like we're here, like, you know, let us know what you need. Like we'll try to raise money and help you out.
Mm-hmm. I mean, that's awesome. I think that whole story is just amazing. You know, when you told me that for the first time the other day, I was like, wow, because it's just, I think it's an amazing thing. It's something that started with something so small, donating toys,
Yeah.
Small in the sense of like, you know, it's probably small to us, but huge to them. And a simple idea, but it has grown to dental care and other things. I think it's amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Like it's, you know, it's like I said, it's like changed me a lot, and you know, it's changed the kids. And you know, I feel, you know, it makes me sad that I haven't gotten a chance to go back there and see the kids. Like I know, you know, once they turn 18, they leave the orphanage, and you know, I know a lot of them won't be there. But hopefully we'll be able to go back there soon and continue to make the impact that we were making before, and continue to make children smile. And hopefully I'll be able to share that experience with Jaden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that would be awesome. So one of my questions was going to be, once this is all over and we can travel again, where would you go? But I feel like we're leading to the answer to that question.
Yes, I would definitely go back to El Salvador. El Salvador would be the first place that I would go to. Would definitely be for 100 Smiles project. And also, you know, being a little selfish myself, there's great waves in El Salvador, and I haven't gone surfing in a really long time. So definitely for that as well. So yes, El Salvador is on my list. And also I'll add another one to my list. We were supposed to go in September, but had to cancel that. And it was to Italy, Camagli, Italy. Cool. So yeah, those would be the first two places that I'd go. I would definitely take my Trtl pillow with me.
I hope so. Cool. So to finish off, one final question. A lot has happened in the last year. So many things have happened in the last year. We've all had to deal with the whole situation. What is the one thing? What are the one or two things that you want to take forward after all this is done?
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest thing is like don't take things for granted. So like I feel like the thing that maybe I took for granted was, you know, I saw my parents, but maybe I didn't see them that much. You know, sometimes I would go like 2 or 3 weeks without seeing my parents. And Now because of the pandemic, I don't get to see them. I don't get to see my sister and her husband. Just don't take for granted like that family time that you have, because like family is really important and they're always going to be there for you. Like I know my family, they'll always be there for me. And like, I really enjoy my time that I've spent with them before the pandemic. And then like just not being able to spend that time with them now has been really hard. And I think it's even more difficult now because, I had Jaden right before the pandemic. So they were like over and like playing with Jaden, but it's like they don't get to see that much of Jaden anymore. They see him through FaceTime, and it's just FaceTime and videos that I send them, and it's just not the same. And it makes me sad because I feel like they're missing out on these precious moments and these precious experiences. So yeah, I'd say like that would be my one thing, is like just don't take things for granted. And I feel like that like the pandemic's made me like realize that,
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people are feeling the same way. Anytime anything happens in life, when if you break a bone or you break an arm or something like that, and you can't play sport or do things and that you could have done before, you then are hopefully more grateful for when you're able to do those things and have that freedom again. And I think that, in a bigger sense, being able to see family, see friends, be with loved ones, be around people, feel the atmosphere, all those things, I just think that people will cherish those experiences so much more after all this is done.
Yeah, I mean, I found myself, before the pandemic, like when you're tired, you're like, oh, I have plans with so-and-so, I'm so tired. Like, maybe I'll, sometimes you just get into this state where you just like want to be alone, or you don't want to do anything, or you're lazy, like, I gotta go to my mom and dad's house, but I want to drive there. It's like, oh, like, like I'm never going to take that for granted again. Like if I have plans to go to my parents' house, I'm going to go and spend my time with them. I'm going to go and spend all the time with my friends outside, take Jaden everywhere, It is what it is now.
Yeah. We'll get there. There's definitely light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I think in hopefully 6 months' time, the narrative will be different. The days will be longer. It'll be summertime, and hopefully we can live a bit more normally.
Yes. I'm looking forward to that. I'm feeling hopeful.
Me too. Awesome. So thanks so much for joining us, Elly. That was amazing. Guys, I think there's been a lot of gems in this. Thank you so much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. Something so simple as taking up a new sport and taking up roller skating has opened up some new doors and has become a daily form of meditation. I think that's amazing, because it's definitely not something that I would have chosen to do, but it might be something that I choose to do in the future. And it just shows there's always a way to adapt, and always a way to do something different, and always a way to get that connection and be part of that community. So Elly, thank you for joining us. If you haven't subscribed yet and you're watching us on YouTube, please subscribe, hit the notification bell. Below the video, there will be all the links to where you can find Elly on social media, and the 100 Smiles Project, and the link to the website. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll speak soon. Take care.
Thank you so much for having me.